Welcome to Beauty Uncovered. And I am really happy because today we have
Mhm.
Chia Habte
Yes,
come join us.
ma'am.
And she is a beauty and lifestyle influencer with millions of followers on her YouTube, Instagram, and her blog, Just Peachy. And I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Now, I do have to clarify, a lot of those millions and millions of followers were my husband's first, and then I just kind of snuck my way in there.
So, I mean, I got to ask because you were a manicurist at one point,
I
which
was, yeah.
mad respect.
Thank
And
you.
so from there, you just basically kind of just started that, or did you have the blog first? How did this all come about?
So it started where me living in Canada. So right now I'm based in LA. We do live in Los Angeles. So before I met my husband, I was an esthetician, manicurist, nail tech, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of different depending on where you're from. And I started up my own business doing nails and pedicures and waxing. And that's just what I did for about 8 years. And I didn't have any following at this point. I didn't have a blog at this point. I was just going to work every day, 9 to 5, sometimes longer, and just doing my thing, painting nails. I loved it, loved it.
Mm.
And then met my husband through a mutual friend. And I was like, who's this guy? And then, of course, you're kind of researching. I'm like, oh, he's a following. He's like an influencer type person, a YouTuber. I'm like, what's that? Because where I'm from originally is Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. People are like, where is that? I've never heard of that. When you think of I'm from Canada, you always think, oh, you must be from Vancouver or you must be from Toronto. It's always like those two. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, smack dab in the middle. If you were to be in like Montana and you go straight up, like that's where Saskatchewan is.
Okay.
It's flat. It's really not a place that you would travel to unless you are from there or you have family or that's just, where you're raised. So, I there was no
So
YouTube.
how did you meet your husband? Was he from there as well?
So a friend of ours, she was kind of dabbling in the whole like YouTube thing as well. And it's not really a common thing to be a YouTuber like where we're
Hmm.
from in our small town. So she was dabbling in the whole YouTube thing and just came across this content on YouTube and they just kind of started talking with each other, commenting on each other's content. And then we ended up taking this big trip to LA. It was me, her, and a bunch of other friends. And she's like, I know this YouTube guy. His name's Tim. And I told him to meet up with us. And we're like, okay, whatever. So we meet up with him. And at the time, I was not single. I did have a boyfriend. So he had his little eye on me before we even made this trip to Los Angeles. And I didn't know this at the time. I only found out afterwards. And
Isn't that the
so
way it always is?
always, yeah, he's like, searching me on MySpace and Facebook back when MySpace was a thing.
Mhm.
And so we all introduced each other, and I was like, yeah, okay, this guy's like, whatever. I didn't really pay him any attention because I, wasn't single. And that's how we met initially. And then months later, we all became single. And I was like, let me just message this guy and like, see what his life is about. Because I was so intrigued with this whole like YouTube thing.
Mm.
And we started talking and, we just started clicking. And then we eventually started dating. We were long distance for 7 years, back and
Wow.
forth. Yeah, from Canada to LA. And with being a YouTuber, like you can kind of set your own schedule. You can book your meetings or do, your sketches or whatever you're doing on your own time. So when we wanted to take a week to see each other, we would just block off a week in our own schedules. And I was fortunate being self-employed that I didn't have to, ask my boss like, hey, can I have this week off of work? It was just like I just tell my clients, I'm like, hey, I'm not working this last week of June or whatever. And we would just either fly to LA or he would come and meet my family in Canada or we would meet in Hawaii or Vegas or wherever. And that's what we did
Wow.
for 7 years. Yeah. So once we started dating, he started showing me in his vlogs. And of course, the audience is like, who's this girl? Who's this new girl that you're seeing? And they started seeing me more often and more often. And then that following kind of trickled over to me and they're like, who's this girl? And they, came to know that I did nails and I was about like my hair and all this stuff. So they started asking me all these questions about nail products and hair products and skincare stuff. And that's when I was like, let me just start a blog where I can just put everything on this website and you guys can all just go there instead of me answering the same question 100 times a day. And that's just how I started the blog. It was just easy for me to put my content out there. Everyone could check it out. And then that's just where it started. And yeah, so
I love
that's,
that blog. I was going through it, and I started out as a blogger once upon a time.
yeah.
I love how curated it is. It's
Oh,
really
thank
well
you.
done. And
Thank
everybody should
you.
go take a look at it. So, I mean, from there, I mean, you have your Instagram, you have all these different things that you do. And of course, everybody is following your journey.
Yes.
And you just had a baby not too long ago. What was it, in
Yes.
February?
It was in February.
And
Yeah,
her
she
name
came.
is Veda.
Yeah, she's the cutest
Oh.
thing. She's downstairs and she's the best thing. I mean, of course I'm biased, but I mean, we love her to pieces.
Well, I mean, so here you are, you're a beauty and lifestyle influencer. And everybody has basically followed your journey all this time. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I know you gave a lot of advice during the time that you were pregnant. First of all, personally, I just have to say, big shout out. I was looking on Just Peachy, and you were talking about nursing and the do's and don'ts. I think it's really great that
Oh,
people are normalizing it,
yeah.
whether that's a choice for you or not.
Yeah.
It's great that it's normalized. So,
Yeah.
knowing, because I got 3 kids of my own, how exhausting this is, I would love to kind of dive deep into what are you doing for self-care? Because first of all, you look phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You
I
look
do have to
gorgeous.
say, Fenty Beauty just came out with this like 5-second tinted skin blur stuff. That's all that I use.
For reals.
I put it on just like one little coat and it's like, boom, you look blurred. You look skin blurred. Like everything is
I
just,
know we all want the little blur, especially when we're tired.
yes, which is what we are.
So what do you feel are the practices that you've had to instill? Because I mean, as much as you're prepared,
Yeah.
okay, my life's going to change, things are going to happen. You're never totally prepared, kind of like with childbirth, all the surprises, all those different things. What what are the things that you thought, okay, these are the things I'm going to do, and what was reality?
Right. I would say after I gave birth, I was like, I can't wait to like relax in a bathtub, have a glass of wine again, and just like, take an evening to myself, let my husband feed the baby with her bottle. It's going to be great. I can get like my me time back again. But then you give birth and you're not just sitting there drinking wine. I mean, maybe you are, but
Well,
it's not relaxing. I was not relaxed.
no.
And so she's 3 months now, and I think like, okay, I'm gonna sleep during the day, or sorry, I'm gonna sleep at night and then let my husband care for her at night and feed her with a bottle. But we're now 3 months in and she hates the bottle. She hates it.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, so there goes that idea of me resting at night because we were gonna, switch shifts. I'll take the day shift, you'll take the night shift. But that's the reality is no. I'm still like, feeding, nursing 24 hours around the clock. And I do take my bubble baths
That's
now that we're
good.
kind of like, yeah, now that we're kind of at the point now where her sleep schedule is a little more manageable when they're like fairly newborn. It's like she's up every 2 hours. And when she's sleeping, you're either trying to feed yourself, trying to take a shower, or just
Or
getting stuff
nap,
done around the house.
if you're
Or, yeah,
lucky.
exactly. So it's like you don't have as much free time as you think you have in those that little block of time. But now I'm at the point where, yes, I can take a bath, I can drink my wine and not feel like, oh my God, like I need to take care of the baby, like running all over the place. So I would say that was the main thing. I was like, let me just take my baths now, enjoy myself. But in the beginning, I think the best thing that I did for self-care was simply just take a shower. I'm like, oh, this feels so good.
Yeah. And,
It's
and and
quiet.
and back to this day, I still feel like the bathroom is that sacred spot that no one's going to interrupt me, and that's my peaceful place. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah, yeah.
So you are, of course, aside from being known for, gorgeous nails and everything like that, your hair, oh my gosh,
Oh,
just
thank you.
divine. I
Thank
would
you.
love for you to share a little bit about, like, there is a journey with your hair, especially when you're growing it
Oh,
longer, when it's textured. Like, talk a little bit about your journey with your hair and when it comes to really kind of learning on the best care for you and what
Hmm.
you actually need. And then
Hmm.
on top of that, like, what are you doing now? Because again, it's that time
Yeah.
constraint.
Oh my God, yes. So growing up, I do have an older sister and an older brother. And my sister has this, it's her hair is so different than mine. It's more wavy, it's low maintenance. You know, she could just take a shower and come out of the shower and not put anything in it, and it's shiny and it's silky. And I was like, my hair is not that. And with my brother, as a child, you know, my parents just shaved his hair. So they had a low maintenance child. And then here I am with like this texture. My mom's like, oh my God, it takes me like 5 hours to detangle it. I have to deep condition it. I have to do this and that. And it got to a point where she's like, I'm just going to relax it. Let's just relax her hair. It's going to make it more, it's going to make it easier for me to deal with it. Right. And it definitely was. After I had my relaxed hair, I could come out of the shower and maybe put like a couple products in it and it dried. Like it was low maintenance for sure.
Hmm.
But then, I kind of grew up and I came to be my own person and I was more independent and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to see what my natural hair is like, because I had been relaxing it for years and years. Like I didn't know anything else. I was about 8, 7, maybe 8 when we first relaxed my hair.
Wow.
And I loved that it was low maintenance, especially because I came from a
Certainly
school
at
where,
that age. I mean, it must have been a lot easier.
yeah, for sure. And then where I'm from, there wasn't a lot of girls that looked like me. And I can remember thinking like we would go on school trips to go like swimming. And I was like, oh my God, I can't get my hair wet because as soon as it gets wet, it's going to be a whole different texture. And I came to a point where I was like, let me just see what, my natural hair is like, because I've never really seen it, right, without it being relaxed. And I started going natural, well, really just recently when I did like my big chop, which was about 3 years ago. I went to Curly Hair Days in San Diego, who specializes in textured hair, curly hair, natural hair, and we just chopped it. We just chopped it,
Wow.
and my hair was like the shortest it had ever been. And at first I was like, "Oh my God, I'm in shock." But I had mentally been preparing this for like almost 3 years. I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go on this natural hair journey. I'm gonna embrace everything." So we chopped it, and I could see like my natural texture coming through, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And I was Olaplexing. That was like my go-to. But I have been an Olaplex fan since like the beginning, since number 3 came out. I was like, what
Yeah.
is this magic gold? I need it. And then of course number 4 came out, number 5 came out, and then everything else just exploded. So my hair is just like this is all Olaplex really.
So when you first cut off your hair and you were looking to like, again, you were have the relaxer in your hair. It's a different type of treatment on what you were doing with your hair. So
Oh yeah.
what changed? Like, did you suddenly realize, oh, I got to start adding this to my hair, that to my hair that I didn't have to do before?
Yeah. So now that I was 100% natural, it was lots of moisture. I needed to
Mhm.
have like that, that deep moisture, deep conditioning. I needed to do like a hair mask once, maybe twice a week. I needed to really do like my dusting, like on the ends, like make sure I was taking care of my ends. Because if I had a split end, it would be like the next day, it like shoots up your whole hair shaft and you got to chop off like 3 inches.
Right.
So I was really taking care of it, making sure like the moisture was in my hair and doing a lot of protective styles. I did a lot of like box braids, or I would do a lot of twists, which I haven't today. The twists are just really low maintenance for me. When I really want a low maintenance, I'll, shower, do my whole routine, throw some twists in, let it sit overnight, maybe 2 nights, and take it out. And then I have this, beautiful twist. And that's like
So is
my
that your
low.
routine now that the baby's born? Yeah.
Now that the baby's here, yeah, I have been doing twists ever since I was pregnant. I had some braids in probably in like my second trimester, but I was like, even that, because you still have to, braids they're low maintenance, but they're still maintenance.
No,
And
definitely.
definitely, so I was just doing, yeah, twists have been my go-to. And but now that I'm in postpartum, my baby's 3 months old, I have really no time to do a lot of things. So I'm like, oh, I'll just put some braids back in it and just let it do its thing. But once I going natural, moisture was a huge thing, conditioning, and I found a great stylist in LA. I've gone to Curls One on One to Ezzy and Donatella there, who just, if you look at their Instagram, it's like curly hair heaven.
Yeah.
It's amazing to finally find someone that understands textured hair, understands what our hair needs. Because again, where I was from, there wasn't a lot of girls that looked like me. A
Mhm.
lot of the salons had no idea how to treat my hair. But I didn't have a choice. You know, like I needed to go in and get a haircut. I mean, yeah, we could have, you know, just cut my hair at home. But I would go in there, and what I would do is actually straighten my hair before I went in to see my stylist.
Oh,
And they would just cut it dry because they had never seen my kind of texture. Even though my hair was relaxed, it was still like it had some texture to it. It wasn't like bone straight.
right.
But even that, with my relaxed hair, they still didn't really know, like, you know, how to handle it. And then once they went to go wash it, it would go from straight to curly. And they're like, okay, how do we do this? So once moving to California, it was so nice to go into see a stylist and just completely feel okay and understand that they knew how to work with my type of hair.
It is interesting. I've been finding more and more there are, and it's so great to see it. There are more and more influencers and more salons where their focus is on textured hair and on natural hair and helping with that transition as well. It's really exciting to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's, well, and I keep going back to like where I'm from, but it's like where I was from, it's like you never, this type of textured hair wasn't common. So it was hard. It
Mm.
was hard. And now that you see it more on Instagram and social media about, you know, especially young girls, like embrace your hair. And that's, you know, the message that I'd like to pass on to young girls is like, embrace your hair. And the adults, like the mothers, are becoming more educated with how to treat textured hair, you know? So it's nice to not have to I can just remember being a young girl and just sitting there and crying when my mom was trying to detangle my hair, and they're like, okay, I'll give you ice cream if you just sit here, please let me comb your hair. And I would scream and I would cry, and I'm like, but you know, my older sister, I'm like, you never have to do this to her hair, why do you have to do it to my hair? And I hated it. But
So
there's
does
so many,
Veda look like she's getting any texture to her hair?
you know what, we think she's going to have some type of a wave. We think she's going to
It's
have,
different when they're first born because sometimes they can lose that baby hair and then some other texture comes in.
that's what we've been told. So right now it's just, it looks like my husband's hair, which is just kind of just straight. But I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what
True
happens.
story. I have my middle son, he's 19 years old. Pin straight hair his entire life. Got to his teen years, went through puberty. His hair is corkscrews. Got a
Oh,
long mane of corkscrew. Yeah. I have no idea
wow.
why. No idea. I
So
mean, we
that's,
have some curly haired people in our family. So, I
yeah,
mean, but the
but
fact
that's,
that it didn't even show up when he was younger, he had hair like me.
wow. So it took like what, like 10 years, 11 years,
I
12
would
years?
say it was more like 14, 15 years.
That's crazy.
It's the craziest thing. I had relatives seeing pictures of him and they're like, what did you do? Perm his hair? I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
They don't
Apparently
believe
this
that
is
it's
what he
true.
has.
Wow, that's great. And what about your other children? Their hair stayed the same as birth?
The oldest, he's 23. He has the same hair, just never changed. And my little one, he's only 11. So, we'll see how that goes. But I mean,
Hmm.
every once in a while, I'll see a little wave in the back and I'm like, maybe he's like Joey. Maybe he's going to have curly hair. They're
Does he
going
love
to
it?
do it all over. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I'm not going to
Oh
lie.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. He loves it. He's
Oh,
like, all the
good.
girls want to touch it.
Can I touch your hair? Yeah. They want to feel
Yeah.
it.
Pretty
Wow,
much,
that's
pretty much. So now that you're in a new phase in your life and doing everything like that, do you feel as though that your focus with your brand and what you're doing, is it going to shift, or are you kind of just sticking to the path?
yeah, I feel like for me, I kind of, well, now, I mean, my focus did shift a little bit from doing a lot of content on nails now to incorporating a little bit of pregnancy and being pregnant. And I love sharing the pregnancy content because the mom community is huge.
Oh yeah.
And I love, like you said before, just going out there, normalizing all of these things, making it known that, what women do, what our bodies go through, what we have to do to raise these little humans. It's a lot. And some women, they don't talk about it. Like, there was a lot of things that I didn't know about pregnancy, and I'm like, how come nobody ever says this?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I think I went through that with my first one, and I had that book, What to Expect and everything. But yet still there were like things that came up where you're like, like when you
Yeah,
talk to other women, they're like, oh yeah. You're like, how could you not tell me this?
exactly. I had no clue. I mean, and I did do a blog post about the things I didn't know about breastfeeding. Like, for example, I didn't know it suppresses your period. I have
Mhm.
literally never heard one person, and I've known a lot of pregnant women, and not one of them have ever said, like, oh, yeah, it suppresses your period. You won't get your period. I'm like, huh? This is crazy.
Mhm.
So I do love talking about, the whole pregnancy stuff. And because I found my doula, Sarah Levon, I found her on YouTube, and I started watching her.
Really?
Oh my God, I
It's like
started
you have a
watching her
whole
content.
network going on on YouTube.
Totally. I started watching one of her videos and I was like, this is amazing. Like, she's out here, like, putting out all this information for us mamas to educate ourselves, to be able to advocate for ourselves in the hospital. Like, it's amazing. So I came across her. I'm like, I need to hire this woman to be my doula. Like, she's phenomenal. And then once I got tied in with her, and I had her by my side virtually, of course, because we were doing whole COVID, and she introduced me to lactation consultants, and if you need a specialist for your pelvic floor, if you need a
Mm.
therapist to help with your family or your marriage, like, to make sure that everyone's on the same level. And I was like, I had never heard of a pelvic floor specialist before. I'm like, what does that do?
I've never
Right.
heard of that before. What is that?
So, pelvic floor specialist, and pelvic floor people, correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically just helps your pelvis and all of your muscles and everything down there tighten back up and get where it
Regain its
needs to
strength, I
be.
guess. Yeah.
Or if it's been through trauma, like, exercises and things that you can do to make sure that it's healthy. Because everything down there is just like one big muscle, right? That's loosened and now it's contracting again. And I've heard a lot of people who have had, like, long labors, or they're pushing for a long time, like, it's heavy on those muscles. And to
Mhm.
recover, like, that can be a long road to recovery. So having somebody who specializes in everything down there, how to strengthen up again, I guess.
Wow.
I never had to use one, but I do know that that's an option for women to have. Like, my sister's like,
Even right down to the abdominal muscles and having everything strengthened so it comes back together because there is a little bit of, for some people, there's a separation.
oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's birth is, wow. I was like, this, I can't believe, I'm like, I never knew that. It's like, I'm like, how have women been doing this for years and years and years and years and years? Like, it's amazing. Our bodies are unreal. It's
Yeah.
it's a miracle, really. So yeah, that's kind of why I've shifted a little bit, talking about the whole, mother baby thing. And I love the community that's there. And I love that people are learning things. They're like, oh my God, I never knew this. Because I'm like, I never knew it either. I didn't know this was like what it was like. It's crazy.
So you could be
So
like kind of like the mouthpiece for all those people that are not. You do sit there and think that like back in the old days, I think like maybe like it was passed from mother to daughter over the centuries because I do think that they might have been a little bit more candid about those things. They were there for each other. It's
mhm,
harder nowadays, there's a
yeah,
it's just the conversations aren't quite the same.
yeah.
So I think it's really great that you're kind of being
I
a
am.
mouthpiece for all that.
Well, I'm trying, because it's like I've learned so much, from social media and just YouTube in general, that it's like I want to give back. I want people to learn and to take in, what I've learned. So, and it's funny because I talked to my mom, who, I mean, I'm in my 30s now. It's been years since she's had a baby. And she's like, oh, okay, it's time to do this, this, and that with your baby. I was like, Mom, I'm like, no, this is like, this is old news. Like things have changed now. We don't, you don't do things for babies until, this age. And she's like, oh, when you were a baby, I did this. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, whatever. So
I do think that to a certain degree, we have short-term memory too, because I almost feel like it's the body's way of naturally protecting you from being traumatized from some of the stuff.
yeah, honestly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I have the same conversations. Like I'm like, Mom, back when we were kids, you didn't even have a car seat for us. We were barely buckled in.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah.
Oh my. And that was another thing too, is through my doula, Sarah Levon, she introduced me to a car seat specialist who comes over and makes sure your car seat is put in properly. And my
Nice.
mom's like, oh no, we never did that. We just kind of, like you said, we just, clicked it in and it was fine. I was like, no, no, it has to be like attached properly. It's got to be in the right position. It's got to be tight, hooked into the anchors, and the buckle has to be up here, and like all of these things. I'm like, this is our first baby. I'd never done any of this before. So I
I
was,
was lucky with my last one. The hospital actually had a specialist.
oh,
So before
nice.
they leave, they would have the father bring the car around to like, let's see your, they wouldn't even let you leave until they did all the
Oh,
checkpoints, made sure it was secured, the base was like everything was the way it was supposed to be, and then taught
right,
us. I
right,
like, of
right.
course, I was exhausted by that. I was just like, let's just get in the car.
You're like, whatever. The car seat is fine. I just want to go home.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
I
there's a
mean, with
whole,
all of those new moms out there, and the truth is yeah, you have a kid and you're exhausted. And it is,
yeah,
I know for me, the self-care was definitely lacking for me. And I wish I did do things differently. Like I
yeah,
wish I took better care of myself. I will say probably at the 3-month mark, I was probably trying to exercise more and do those small things. But what do you think are like for their own, not just for the self-care of body mind? I mean, that's super important and we should definitely talk about that, but
hmm,
also even just because we know that sometimes what's going on the external,
hmm,
sometimes we need that. We need to feel pretty, we need to feel beautiful, we need to feel put together in
yeah,
order for it to settle down the chaos inside.
yeah, hmm,
So what
hmm.
would be some of the things you would recommend? Let's start with like mind, body, taking care of yourself.
So it's funny that you say at the 3-month mark, you were just starting to exercise. So we are just getting to the 3-month mark. And yesterday, I'm like, I'm going to start my yoga again. And I was like, I loved my yoga, my hot
Yoga would
yoga.
scare me. It's so
Really?
intimidating.
Oh
Yes.
gosh, there's so many different levels. Now you can find, and again, on YouTube, I just searched like, when I was pregnant, I would just search like prenatal yoga, and it's
Mm.
like the most gentle flow. But now that I'm 3 months and I hadn't been exercising this whole time, and just yesterday, I'm like, let me try like a 20-minute, just like a stretching, just to get like my body going again. And that's what I love to do for my body. My yoga, that was what I did all of when I was pregnant. And now that I'm, kind of getting to a point where I have a little bit of time to myself, I'm like, let me start my yoga again. And not only is it good for the body, like it really just clears my mind. It clears my
Mm.
mental. So even just like a 20-minute flow or just a 10-minute, like however much time you have, just to lock yourself in a room, just put on your yoga, listen to like that calming music, and it really just kind of changes you. And I can go back downstairs to my screaming baby, and I was like, okay, I can handle this. I've relaxed for the last 15 minutes.
I have to say that was something that I learned where, taking that 15, 20 minutes, like even if it's 15, where
Yeah.
it's something like that. Cause at first I started like, okay, get the stroller, put the baby in the stroller and go for a walk, which many times would work out well until the times that it didn't.
Right. And
And
then it
then
was
it's like it
stressful.
throws you all off. And
Yeah.
then what was supposed to be something that was good for you and keep you calm and something good for your body becomes a stressful situation. So I
Yeah.
actually like, I think that's a really great tip is to block off. And, if it means when the baby have it at the ready, okay, this is going to be my time. I'm going to flow into it. That's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and like I said, you can just do like a 10-minute thing, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. There's videos on there that range from 5 minutes all the way to 2 hours. So however much time you have, And I mean, I'm lucky enough that my husband, we work from home. So I'm like, okay, I just fed the baby. I'm like, you keep her for the next 20, 30, an hour, whatever. I'm going to go upstairs and do yoga. But I mean, sometimes even just going outside, taking a walk by yourself. Like, yes, we love to take our babies everywhere, but just being by yourself. And even if you're not going for a walk, just like sitting on your doorstep and just getting fresh air for like 15 minutes. I mean, the sunlight, the vitamin D does so much for us. It changes like all of our hormones. And then we can go back and be better parents and better mothers and all of that for our babies and good partners and spouses and all that stuff. So it just takes a little bit of time, just getting fresh air. And if you can't physically go outside, just open up a window. You know what I mean?
Hmm. It's
So,
funny because my mom, one of the pieces of advice she gave me, and admittedly, she had 11 kids. She had,
oh,
yeah, all single births,
wow.
11 kids. She used to
Wow.
say to us, when you're in an airplane and those air masks come on down,
Yeah.
the parent is supposed to put it on first, because if you're
Hmm.
not saving yourself first, there's no way you're going to save that baby. And if you put it on
Yeah.
them first and then something happens to you, that child can't take care of themselves. So you
Yeah.
have to take care of yourself as a parent.
Yeah.
And then everything else will be taken care of. They might scream for a second,
Yeah.
but
True.
it'll be okay.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you say that because I can remember for the longest time being like, well, why would I save myself first before your baby? I'm like, that's
Right.
crazy. But
I
it makes
remember
the most
thinking
sense.
that too. And that
Yeah,
that that makes complete sense. It makes
it does.
complete sense.
You do
So
have
when
to
it
take care of
comes
yourself.
comes to like taking care, all right, so you're taking care of your body, you're getting your exercise, you're taking
Hmm.
that me time, which is super important. But
Yeah.
then it comes to the point where you're like, okay, I'm a mess. I'm in clothing with baby milk stains on me. I'm wearing
Yeah.
sweats and slouchy socks, and I'm not functioning as
Yeah.
a whatever. What would you suggest? Because you also feel weird in your own body, you
Yeah,
know,
totally. It's like
things
you've
aren't
gone through this.
quite
Yeah. Yeah.
fitting. Your old
Exactly.
clothing's not quite fitting you yet, but then the, stuff you're wearing in your pregnancy, you're not going to wear that. That's too big.
True. So there are a lot of really great brands that have um, maternity wear, nursing wear that doesn't look like nursing wear, like, oh, she's a mom, you know what I mean? So for example, I'll show you.
I
I have
love
this,
that color, by the
I,
way.
oh, thank you. I have this nursing tank that just looks like just a regular tank.
Cute tank.
It's like super cozy, very comfortable. And then of course it has the little
It has
clips
a
here that you just
latch.
pop down and nurse. And I was like, there's a lot of brands that just do that, the nursing wear that makes you feel like you're not wearing nursing wear, like that you're just like not just a mom, like you can feel cute in their stuff. And a lot of just things with patterns and things that just make you feel comfortable, but you look presentable. If somebody were to pop by at your house, you don't look like, oh my god, like a huge mess. So luckily there are a lot of brands now that do nursing wear, maternity wear that looks really cute, which is nice. So taking care of yourself that way, like having your clothes, look like you're not, full of puke all the time. Um, God, because you are puked on a lot, a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, no, we are.
Yeah, yeah, no, we are. There's no
So
denying
you were
it.
saying that with the Fenty makeup, like you did this
Oh,
one thing. So
oh
do you
my
feel
god.
like, because I understand sometimes people need to just be, you don't have to look like you're $1 million every single day. However, I'm starting to value the concept of even something, that small thing,
Yeah.
that small thing to make you feel, even if you're not going out, you're
Hmm.
feeling put
Hmm.
together. So you were saying you use that Fenty, was it a tint or?
It's like they call it a skin blur. It's really just like a
Okay.
tinted moisturizer. It's super lightweight.
Which is nice. Yeah.
So nice. So literally, I just like take a little bit, pop it on all over my face, and it just evens out your skin tone. Get rid of some of the under eye bags that we have, of course, and like that's really all you need. And just like a couple swoops of blush, and you feel like a normal person. But I will say the one tiny, tiny, tiny thing that I do that makes me feel so much better is putting on my gold hoops. That's it.
Oh, I love
Just
that.
Putting on my hoops. If I look a mess, if I have no makeup on and my clothes are blah, if I just put my hoops on, I'm like, okay, I feel better.
I love that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
then, I mean, let's face it, putting on like some earrings or something like that, then you feel like you're put together.
Yeah. And I mean, luckily right now I'm at a stage where my daughter's not grabbing my earrings
Oh,
and
fair
pulling them
point.
out.
Yeah,
I didn't
fair
really think
point.
about that. I didn't think about that. Right now I can get away with it. I might have to
And
change
then
the
she'll be
studs
pulling on
later.
those curls.
Yeah. I got rid of my necklaces though, because sometimes she's grabbing around here on the chest and she'll pull your necklace right off. But she hasn't reached up to my ears yet, so I can still get away with my gold hoops.
It's temporary when they start doing that. It's not
Yeah.
too long, but there, yeah, it does. Yeah, I remember the first time that happened to me. That was not fun.
Oh God, it's like stretching out your piercing hole.
I love
But
that. There's some good clothing sources, makeup,
yeah,
you working with your hair and everything. So
yeah.
from here, you feel like, I mean, the kind of content that you're going to be bringing is a lot about being a mom, which is really exciting.
Being about mom, and of course, I mean, I do have to say, when my nails are done, that's the one thing that makes me feel like my soul is alive when my nails are done. When I have no nails on and my toenails are bare and there's no color there, I just feel blah. Like I'm sad inside. It's like everything is just dark. My life is dark.
True story. I used to never get my nails done. Never.
Okay.
I'm a hairdresser myself, so it's like a sensory thing and everything. And then
Mhm.
about how many years ago? Maybe it was 4 years ago. I started getting my nails done. And I was like, oh, okay, I can still do my thing and everything like that. It was getting it. Then the next thing I know, I'm getting these claws. But,
Yep.
during COVID, I had a long period of time, I just didn't go. And now I just started going again. I'm like all excited. It's so pretty.
Look at that. I
But
love it.
you're right. I have every 3 weeks I go in, I get the powder, I have to go back every 3 weeks. Otherwise I don't feel as put together. And it's like
Yeah.
easy to feel put together with that, even when I'm a
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah. You could be a mess and your house could be upside down, but if your nails look good, then you're
Right.
like, oh, okay, this is okay. My life is okay. And it's,
Right.
and it's really hard. I mean, for you, yeah, you go out and you get your nails done every 3 weeks. But I can't leave the house yet because my baby's nursing every like, 2, 3 hours. And I do my own nails anyways, but even just doing my nails at home, like that's hard too, to find the time to do it
Are
because it's a
you are you
process.
good at that whole like one hand or the other? I can't. I can't.
I mean, I've gotten pretty good at doing my own nails. And I do one hand at a time so that this hand, I do a lot of the light cured gel. So it's just like
Oh,
on my
nice.
own short natural nail. So right now I have this kind of green color
That's
on.
cute though.
Yeah, and this is just regular polish because I haven't had the time to do the full like gel set yet. So I'm like, I give the baby to my husband. I'm like, just give me an hour. Just give me an hour. I prep my nails fast, paint them.
What's a really great tip for someone that might be doing their nails on their own? Like just regular polish. They wanted to have a nice clean polish because like I said, I can get it gorgeous on one hand. When I try to do my right hand, it's like a hot mess. Like what
I
would you
know.
be like as your top line tip for someone to keep it as clean as possible?
So first thing is when you're working with your non-dominant hand,
Mhm.
painting your dominant hand, be patient. Take your time. Because if you go nice and slow and you get that polish on nice and thin, and you're not getting too sloppy and messy going outside of the lines, it's going to dry so much faster. It's way less cleanup for you. So just take your time, one stroke at a time. Don't go too fast and try to put the polish on as thin as you can because the thinner your polish is, the faster it's going to dry. So a lot
And
of
just
people
be
think
expecting to do more than one coat.
more than one coat. Yeah. I
I
mean,
am that goop person. I am a goop
yeah,
person.
I know. A lot of people are goop people because they're like, I'm just gonna plop it on and then I don't have to do two coats and then I'm
And then
done.
spread it out.
No, two
This is
thin
why I'm
coats.
not a manicurist.
I know, I know. Two thin coats are always better than one thick one. I always say that, whether that's with regular polish that you're just drying with air, or if you're
Mm.
doing gel polish and you're drying in the lamp. If you have a really thick product on there, it's going to take twice as long to dry, if at all, right? So you could be sitting there with thick polish for like 2 hours, and then you go to do something and you can see like the crinkles in it, and you're like, oh damn it, I just spent all this time doing my damn nails and now they're ruined.
Yeah.
So take your time. I know it sucks. And I always start with my weak hand first, because then you can do that, get it out of the way.
And
And then
take
you're
your
like,
time, and you
okay.
haven't lost your patience, so you are taking your time. That's
And then
a
once you
really
get
good
to,
tip.
yeah. And then you get to do like the easy side. And then you're like, wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Very good tip. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, I think we're going to say thank you so much
Yeah.
for
Of
coming on. This was so much
course.
fun. And
Yeah. I
I'm
loved
really
it.
looking forward to seeing all the content that you're going to be putting up. I'm going to be telling all my mom friends to go and take a look, and also our
Hello.
manicure enthusiasts.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It was the best.
All right. Big hug to Beta.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.